Good afternoon. Our lecture for this afternoon would be identification of the problem for preventive medicine and community health. Content of this lecture would be the following: an introduction to medical research, steps in medical research, identification of the problem, steps in identification of the problem, selection of area, delimitation of problem, and how to evaluate problem. So according to the English dictionary, the word research comes from the French word recherche, which means to travel through or survey. It also means to search after or to investigate. Research is a process in which a person observes the phenomena again and again until he could draw some conclusions on the base of that area. Steps in research would include identification and definition of the problem, review of related literature, which would be a separate lecture, formulation of hypothesis, also a separate lecture, and to do sampling, a separate lecture as well. So first, we identify the problem. The first step in the research process is the choice of a suitable problem for investigation. The identification of a research problem is a difficult but an important phase of the entire process. A beginner researcher finds the task of identifying a research problem difficult. This may be due to his limited knowledge of research process, unpreparedness for identifying the problem, unfamiliarity with the areas in which research is needed, and the procedure that he has to follow. So, to make it easier, let us identify the steps in identifying the problem. First, we select the area, then with the delimitation of the problem, then we do sampling. So selection of the area would be knowing the field or area and selection of the problem. So knowing the field, so it is first necessary for a researcher to choose a broad field within which he will conduct the study. For example, you're interested in diabetes mellitus or Alzheimer's, etc., that you are particularly interested in. The field selected should be one in which researcher is capable of demonstrating necessary initiatives, originality, and good judgment. So a thorough search of facts and ideas of the field is the most important step in selecting a problem for study. So periodicals and annual biographies are helpful in keeping the researcher informed. And then we select the problem. After selecting the broad area, the researcher must then narrow it down to a highly specific research problem and must state the specific questions on sources or origin of the problem. This is usually brought about by personal experience. So one of the sources of problem for research is the daily experience of one. The classroom teacher, for example, may have daily contact with the students, or a doctor would have daily contact with the patients, and you have a particular problem that you want to solve. So the interaction occurs between teacher-pupil, doctor-patient, pupil and pupil, etc., and furnishes a rich source of material for selecting a problem. So source of questions to be answered through research, so could come from professional literature. This would be extensive and critical readings in a field. Not only serves as a check on what has already been done, you could check research-oriented professional journals. So for education, there would be biography of writings in the field of education and medicine, the review of research. So these would be published by an American Research Association. Establishing contacts is also important. Ideas can also come through association with research-oriented colleagues. So attendance at meetings and conferences of various associations offers opportunities for associations with other professionals who are interested in research. And of course, we read different journals, medical journals, to broaden our perspective. So we should pursue active membership in professional organizations such that it is conducive in our research orientation. These organizations are concerned with the improvement of educational opportunities and are able to view the problem from a broad perspective. So suggestions, problems may be selected among the suggestions given by research workers. And some would be technological and social changes. This would be use of hardware and software in classes. So we could see this in effect with online and blended learning, the training of teachers through your team teaching, so micro teaching, simulation, etc., etc. All of this may help in developing or new avenues for medical research. So to delimit the problem in this phase, we have to limit and clarify the topic or refine it to make it more easily researchable. Without refinement, it is difficult to take hold on a problem. According to Whitney, to define a problem means to put a fence around it to separate it by careful distinctions from like questions found in related situations. So the three steps in finding limits to research would be, first of all, write down your topic in the form of the statement of a question briefly and clearly. This is known as the statement of the problem. Then write the operational definition of the main words in the topic. At the end, formulate the hypotheses that have to be tested. We will learn how to make the hypothesis at another lecture. So there are rules according to Hillway. So be sure that the topic chosen is neither too vague, too broad in scope. To make the problem clearer and more understandable, state it as a question which requires a definite answer. Carefully state the limits of the problems, eliminate all aspects and factors which could affect the study. Define any special terms that must be used in the statement of the problem. Through this, the researcher tells what are going to be the meaning in his study of those main words in the statement of the problem, whose scope needs to be delimited, but the meaning should be in an accepted concept of the words and not beyond them. So we have to be wary of achievement, personality, gender, socioeconomic level, etc. of the people we are researching. So to evaluate the problem, we have to know, is the problem researchable? There are certain problems that may not be solved through the process of research, like is it good to provide sex education in the secondary schools? Is a value question and can be answered only on the basis of value judgment. So the purpose in studying a problem which has already been investigated by other researchers. So you have to be sure that your problem is new. To avoid duplication, it is essential to examine very carefully the record of previous studies completed in one's field. So it's important to make a good review of related literature to make sure that there's no duplication of your research. The researcher should not select a problem until he is convinced that it is a new problem and the problem is significant. So usually the problem usually relates to what a researcher hopes to accomplish in a particular study. Is the problem feasible for the particular for your research competencies? So the problem should be an area which the researcher is qualified and competent. Interested in enthusiasm, the problem should be one in which the researcher is genuinely interested and about which he is truly enthusiastic. And within the financial means of the researcher, must have an estimate of the expenditure involved in data gathering, printing, testing, and travel and clinical assistance. Thank you. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel for more lectures on preventive medicine and community health. Okay, for your assignment, I want you to group yourselves in groups of 15 to 20 and um, identify a problem that you want or a topic that you want to have to do research on, and this would be submitted next week. Thank you.